Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fabi, and welcome to Arrows DIY. On my channel, I love creating Dollar Tree DIYs, high-end dupes, thrift flips, and the occasional trashy. This is another episode in my fall series, and today I'm so excited to show you part 2 of my harvest tier tray. My theme is apple and pumpkin picking, so you're going to see a variety of both harvest products. I hope you enjoy. If you do, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up and subscribe if you want to. All right, let's get started. So in the summertime, I made this mini truck using the Dollar Tree truck, and I like making a basket design on the truck. So it was a strawberry fruit themed tier tray for the summertime. So I don't like hot gluing too much. That way I can change out my decor throughout the year. So as you can see, I just popped off the floral at the back of this truck, and the yellow you see there is just some Easter foam eggs. I just used as some floral foam. Now I'm going to take some greenery that matches the little apple tree birdhouse I made in part 1. I'll link that video below if you want to check it out. But this is the little apple tree birdhouse that I made, and I still love it very, very much. And it just has the same greenery on the roof, so I want to keep that throughout my tier tray. I'm going to take this greenery and try to cover this yellow foam. So I do use some hot glue on the leaf, and I stick it onto the leaf. And now I'm going to add this leaf as well. This came off of the apple doorknob from last video. At the end of this video, I show what else I do with this doorknob. So stay tuned if you want to see that remake of a gold doorknob. So I'm going to start off by just adding one of these wooden apple pieces from the Dollar Tree, as well as 2 of these pumpkins from the pumpkin spice pine cone pack. I show the bag later on, so you know exactly what bag these little cute pumpkins come from. So we're going to start off like that, and I left the center open so we can add some more in a little bit. I took some of the florals I had with the greenery. I love saving my greenery just in case. I love using them in projects. So I'm just taking some greenery I had in my stash, and I'm taking off that plastic part in the middle so that we can cut them up. So now I'm going to cut up the leaves so that they're kind of like small leaves, but I'm cutting one of the leaves into 4 sections. That way I can make smaller ones. So from one leaf, I make about 8 small leaves. And I do this for about 6 of them, and then I was kind of over it. So then I just started cutting some shapes that were very conceptual shaped leaves. But these are the first 6 and how they came out. So this is how we're going to use these little leaves on a garland. I took some of this jute, the corded jute from the Dollar Tree. It's the red and natural jute cord, and I like this one because it's double stranded, so I feel like it'll be more sturdy for a garland. If you want to use jute twine, you can. It's just I've had a garland break on me once with the jute twine, so I prefer using a sturdier cord. I take a needle from the repair needles I got mine at Family Dollar, but you could totally get them at Dollar Tree. They have them in the hair section for hair weaving, and those needles are really good as well. So this one is not that sharp, but it's very thick, and I just had to make sure that it fit inside the smallest bead. I go ahead and I use some smaller beads and bigger beads. I painted 7 of the larger beads red and 7 of the larger beads in the same emerald color from my last video. So this is going to symbolize the apples, green and red apples, and I'm just putting the leaves in between. So as you can see, at the beginning I had a different pattern on my garland, but I changed my mind, and I like it how it looks with the natural bead in between. So I go natural bead, apple of choice, a leaf, natural bead, apple of choice, and another natural bead. I will link the beads in the description box below. I got them off Amazon if you're interested. So now I'm going to take some regular sized leaves to finish off the garland. And I'm just poking them through, kind of like in the center, so that it doesn't break on me. And I put 2 of them, and now I'm gonna add the pumpkins. So you totally don't have to do this. If you're doing an apple themed tier tray, you could just keep the apples on. I think the apples are really cute, but I told you I was doing an apple and pumpkin theme because we do both in our house. In our family, we go apple and pumpkin picking on the same day. So that's why I did both. But you could totally just make a pumpkin garland or a apple garland if you like. You could break your pumpkin when you're pulling it off the pick, so be careful. I'm just showing you both together, and I chose to put all the pumpkins on one side of the garland because you would see them coming off the truck, which is why I did it this way. As the garland wraps around my tier tray, I want you to be able to see the apples, but I want the pumpkins to look like they're falling off the truck. You'll see in a second what I mean. Finish it off by putting on a natural bead, a pumpkin. They're foam pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. Then another natural bead and a white pumpkin, a natural bead and an orange pumpkin. Now, I add 3 more beads at the end, and now I'm going to connect it to the truck, the back of our truck. I did change the color on my truck to more of a rustic fall truck. So I just dry brushed my truck with brown, some like honey colored brown paint, and then I distressed it with a darker brown. The brown I used was Bark Brown by Folk Art. So now I'm taking the jute cord and I'm wrapping it 3 times around that hole in the back of the truck. And this is going to be the charm on my garland. I really like the idea of this little truck, and it's going to look like all this stuff is falling off the back of the truck. So to finish it off, I thread the needle backwards, going through those 2 needles and then making a knot. I really don't want this to come loose or break. I have little ones and I have a baby, so I don't want this beaded garland to break on me. So that's why I'm securing the knot with a double knot. I don't think you should do that because it's kind of obvious that the double knot is there. However, it doesn't bother me. I just really don't want this garland coming apart and causing a choke hazard. So if you have pets or small family members like babies and children with autism or something that are prone to chewing on objects, make sure that you are taking all precaution. This tier tray is not going to be in their reach, but it will be on my counter. So I just fair warning, use discretion, and this is a lot of fun to make. So I hope you do give it a try. Once I secure it with some hot glue, I kind of roll the hot glue over the knot so that it's nice and contained in one beaded shape. And now I just slide all of the pumpkins down to take away the space next to the truck. So now I'm sliding all of the beads down towards the truck to take away any spaces that may be there. And I know I apologize. I have like an ADD moment here where I'm like, the truck is empty. I have to fill it. So I'm putting some more of those little pumpkins in the center there. I just like seeing finished products as I create. So that's why I stopped making the garland. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to make the back of this truck match the garland. So I found it helpful to keep that little wire in there and stick it into the foam eggs at the bottom of the truck. So that's the pumpkin. And now I'm going to add a red wood apple. So I already painted it and I forgot to paint the stems. So now I'm painting the stem. I'm just showing the process here. So I forgot to paint the stem. So I'm doing that now. And then I'm going to hot glue it as the stem continues to dry. I'm using the same bark brown color for the stem. So there you go. Now my truck is complete and my beaded garland is almost 100% finished. I don't know why I couldn't wait for the garland to be done. I needed to see it all cohesive, but do you see how it looks like the pumpkins and the stuff is coming off the truck? I don't know. I thought that was adorable. So let me know in the comments below if you think that's adorable too. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep sliding these beads all the way down, making sure to keep some space. You don't want to make it too tight because then that will cause too much tension on your jute rope, and it might cause it to actually break with the friction of the beads and everything. So just keep that in mind. Now I'm going to make the tassel. Now everyone has a different way of making the tassel. I'm not going to go into full depth, but in case you want to see how I made my tassel, this is how I made it. I took a 7-inch wood block. I finally found it again. And I'm just going to wind the regular natural jute twine around about 25 times. Then, once I was happy with that, I took the red and natural jute cord and I wrapped that around 25 times. Once I was happy with that, I cut the ends off. Now, the open end that we have on the garland, I left about, I would say about 10 inches of slack on the end of that beaded garland. I'm going to loop that through the bundled up jute that we just took off the block. And I'm just going to, so now we're going to thread the jute cord through the needle again. With the help of the needle, we are going to thread it through the natural bead and pull on the string so there's no space between the beaded garland and the tassel. Now this is really no biggie, but I really don't like a space between my tassel and my garland. I just thread the natural jute cord through this. It was a snug fit, so I say be careful. I'm trying to do this as slowly as possible. It looks a little faster because I sped up the video for your viewing pleasure. I appreciate your time, so I didn't want to waste it, but I just used some pliers to get the needle through nice and safe. I never tie a knot when I thread my jute cord because it's just going to make life more difficult. So I just thread the jute cord through the needle, but I never knot it. Okay, so I also recommend this needle kit from Family Dollar. It has the biggest eye hole. It's very easy to thread. Okay, so then I just tie a knot and I always secure it with hot glue because I do not trust jute twine. But I also, see, I just thread it very simply. It's huge. The eye hole is huge in this needle. And I thread it through 2 more of those. That way, if it ever does come off, which I doubt it will, if it ever does, I have enough thread to make a knot again. And then I just, this part here, I wish I didn't do because it was just excessive, but it's okay. It'll be fine. I think that's my trademark at this point. It'll be fine. I always say it'll be fine. I've noticed that in my voiceovers. All right, so then I just cut it off. Now, if you ever have a hot glue drip, do not rub your hot glue, because I just did. And I regret it because it just makes it messy. If you just wait for your hot glue to fully dry, it'll crack off nice and clean. So if you ever have a hot glue mess, wait for it to dry. Once it's fully dry, then crack it off. Because if you try to take it off while the hot glue is still hot on a beaded garland like this, it's just going to make a smudgy mess, but I digress. Okay, so now we have our tassel attached to the garland. Now we just have to wrap it up. So I'm going to use some jute cord, the natural colored one, and I'm just going to wrap around, keeping the top of the tassel nice and neat, making sure it all goes in one direction. And I'm just going to wrap it around about 10 times and knot it off. Now, am I sure if this is the best way to make a tassel? No, I'm not sure, but this is how I make a tassel. I double knot it at the bottom and I cut it off. Now I just give this tassel a haircut. You could soak it in water if you like, if you want your tassel to go in one direction. If you soak your tassel, I've heard that it helps all of the fibers behave nicely when it dries. But I just left it like so. I like the raggedy nature of it. I feel that it makes it feel rustic and perfect for harvest time. But there it is on my tier tray. Let me know what you think. I think it's adorable. So this is part of the 4th Friday Open Challenge. It's hosted by Lisa at Our Grey House and Sarah from Jujubee Sarah. This month's guest host is Annie from Indiana Jones. This month's theme is fall and Halloween, so if you check out the playlist link below in my comment box, you might see some videos for fall, you might see some for Halloween, but I recommend you give that playlist a click because it's going to be awesome. Alright, for our next project, I found this stick in the park, and I'm that crazy lady at the park who takes her kids to the park and is looking for a good stick. Behave. So now, I'm going to cut this in half. I'm using my miter shears, and I wanted to cut it in half long ways. Now I wish I would have like one of those big power tools to cut it in half. It would come in so handy right now, but with my kids and my living situation, I cannot have those giant saws. So I am just going to cut it in half and then cut it in half lengthwise. That way I can make a cute little sign for my tier tray. Now for the sign, I decided to use this rectangle from the Dollar Tree, and I just love the way these sticks look. I feel like they're so rustic, and I don't know, I just really like this idea. So I take this rectangle wood piece from the Dollar Tree. If you can't find this one, you could use anything. You could use poster board. You can create a backing with craft sticks by just hot gluing a whole bunch of sticks together with more sticks to hold them together. But I'm just going to put these sticks on top of this wood piece, and I put the sticks on top as well so that I'm able to see how much I need to cut off. And I want to make sure that there's enough space so that I have room to hot glue the sticks to the wood surface. So I put the sticks in place, and I use a pencil to trace how much area I need behind the stick to glue it on. Now once I have that line there, I decided to use some of these rub-on transfers. I got these at Dollar Tree, and I used them for my last fall tier tray video. It was a vintage video where I made an acorn, and I love the way it turned out, and I didn't want to throw this away. I mean, these rub-on transfers are not my favorite, but I did pay $125 for them, and I want to get my money's worth, if you know what I mean. On this channel, we love budget-friendly DIYs. So if you're new here, I consider hitting the subscribe button. What did I just say? Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more budget-friendly DIYs. I clearly need more coffee. Okay, so this is the rub-on transfer. I cut out my favorite saying on there. There were two. I wasn't sure which one, so I ended up cutting two and fitting them, and this one won. The other one is cute as well, but I figure I'll use that for Christmas. I think it'd be really cute to do a gingerbread DIY. And now I'm gonna just rub this transfer. Now it's very important to hold this straight. You might want to tape it down, but honestly, it's like very thin wax paper. You have to be very careful and hold every single inch with two of my fingers, going inch by inch, and just using a craft stick. You could use anything, your Cricut tool, you could use a credit card, a gift card, whatever you want to use. Just be very careful and keep rubbing for your life. Now that's how it turned out. I think it's cute, super rustic. And now I'm just going to glue on the sticks around. Now I thought I was just going to make a regular frame, but I ended up wanting to make it a little bit more special. But then I was like, I want this to have apples on it because it's an apple tier tray. Now I'm using my miter shears, and I'm just cutting the front, and then I'm cutting the back, following those notches at the bottom of the wood. I was going to put the apples at the bottom, but I figured it's going to be on a tier tray. You won't see the bottom of the sign. So I ended up putting the apples on top. Now I picked a twig that was kind of bent just to give it that rustic natural feel, which I love. So I did that. And now I'm hot gluing one corner of the stick to the wood piece. And apparently I'm picky about the side that I'm about to hot glue for the shelf. So now I'm just making a little shelf to hold my apples on top. And I'm really liking how it turns out. I think it's super cute. Now I did have a little space there, and I could have left it like that. I mean, it's rustic, right? So there's not really a particular rule. I mean, nature has its own rule, you know, follows God's rule, but I just wanted a little piece of leaf coming out of there just so it wasn't distracting and kind of adds more of that apple tree element to it. Okay, so now I'm going to hot glue. And it was a time trying to hot glue these 5 into the ledge. Sorry if you hear my kids. They're loud. But all right, so here I am just hot gluing them, and there's this one rebellious apple that did not want to sit. Kind of like when you put them in the car and you're trying to get everybody in the car and there's always that one child who wants to not put their seatbelt on. That was that apple. All right, so that's how it looks in my tier tray. Let me know what you think about that one. I love it. It's super cute. Okay, so here is the apple. So this is the apple I made in my last video, and it was a doorknob, and I decided to turn it into an apple. I know this is very conceptual, guys. Stick with me here. I hope you can see what I'm saying. Now I take off the extra 2 apples at the bottom, as well as the leaf. I used that on the truck in the beginning, if you can remember that. Now I'm going to use hot glue. Now I'm just going to hot glue around. I recommend keeping your hot glue a little cool, meaning this project is better when your hot glue is less hot. So you want to do this right after you turn on your glue gun so that your glue is more manageable. If your hot glue is really hot, it moves around a lot and it could burn you. So be very careful. Make sure that your hand is not under this hot glue as it is setting. Do one side at a time, and once that's fully dry, go on to the other side. You also want to continue moving your apple around as it's drying so that there's no significant drips. But if there is drips, that's fine because we're making a caramel apple. And I've never seen a 100% neat caramel apple. Anyways, even if it is, it's not enough caramel. So we need to put more caramel. All right, now I'm taking this bamboo skewer and I'm just hot gluing it to the center hole of that doorknob. If you do try this DIY by some crazy chance, who knows, just make sure that your doorknob has a little hole in it so that you could put a stick inside of it. So here I am just using the color Coffee Latte, and I am just painting in all the drips. I made sure to make a drip kind of coming off of the jute cord. But that's how it's looking once it's all painted. After I painted it, I noticed this is not enough caramel. So I ended up painting more, a little higher up to cover the apple more, because I want this to be a caramel apple, not an apple with caramel. Yeah. So I had a subscriber in my last video tell me that it would be super cute to make a little worm coming out of the apple, and I totally agree. And it was really late at this point, and I couldn't think of another way to make a caramel, to make a worm. So I just took some wire that I had on hand, and I just folded it over on itself 4 times, and I made sure that the full length was about 8 inches. So I guess 24 inches of wire cord folded over on itself 4 times. And yeah, I just twisted it like that, keeping that loop in the front so that I had more control over the twists. Once I twisted it, I bent it over. I bent the edge over like that and made a loop on the end. So I thought that that would be really cute for the worm's head. Sorry about the angle. Hopefully you can see what I'm saying. I just thought it would be really sweet for a little worm action on my apple. Let me know what you would have used for your worm, because I had a hard time trying to find a way to make a worm. And yeah, let me know in the comments below, because I might make it again next year. So I really want to know. Now for the other end of the worm, I just made a little loop, and then I slid it down on that stick. Now I wish I didn't put hot glue. I thought that hot glue would help it set in place, but the wire was tight enough on the stick that it would have stayed without the hot glue. So I wish I didn't put the hot glue. You live and you learn, right? Now I was going to add some of the nuts that they add onto the caramel apples. So I used some of this antique Mod Podge because I don't really like this Mod Podge. Out of all the Mod Podges, this is like my least favorite, but it has a little bit of tinge. So I figured I could use that to my advantage to kind of make the Epsom salt look like peanuts. So I started off by adding some Mod Podge to the bottom of the caramel with some of this antique Mod Podge and a foam brush. So I added a good amount on there, and then I just sprinkled on some of the Epsom salt. You want to be sure that you put a lot of Mod Podge, because if not, the Epsom salt will turn white over time. Not that that's a problem, I'm just letting you know that Epsom salt doesn't stay clear. It turns white if the air hits it for a long time. So make sure that you have something to cover your surface so that you don't make a big mess. And if you do, it's an easy cleanup. And I'm just doing this all around the bottom of this caramel apple. I also did seal the entire apple with the same antique Mod Podge because I wanted to preserve the color, the paint. I didn't want it to chip on me, so I did seal it with some Mod Podge. Now that's how it's looking at the bottom of the caramel apple. I'll tell you in a little bit what my husband said, and it totally killed it for me. Oh, guys, do not ask your husband or partner, whoever, don't ask them what they think about your project, because I made that mistake and I asked my husband, what does this look like? And I'll tell you at the end what he said. I cannot believe that he said that. Now I can't unsee it. Leave in the comments below if you can think what my husband called this thing, because I was like, oh look, what do you think about it? He goes, what is it? I'm like, are you serious? You can't see what it is? And then he goes, is it and then he said it, and I was like, ugh, it does look like that. Now I can't unsee it. Anyways, so now I put some more Mod Podge at the bottom of this. I ended up pouring it on because I wanted the color to cover the texture of the Epsom salt. So then I just kind of pat it down with this foam brush all the way around to try to keep the Epsom salt in place. But I did have to add more Epsom salt because the foam brush kind of wants to take it off. You could use your fingers as well, but I didn't want to, so I used the foam brush. Just keep in mind, whatever paintbrush or foam brush you use will have Epsom salt stuck to it. So for my paintbrush, which I use in a little bit, I had to use a baby wipe to wipe off the Epsom salt right away because I love my paintbrushes. And I'm trying to be better about my paintbrushes. I really am trying to be a little better. Okay, so as you can see, I pat down the Epsom salt all the way around the bottom of this. Now, it does have kind of like that off-white color, which I love. So I'm going to leave it like that, but I'm going to add some more color to it for a variety of colors. Okay, so now as you can see, I'm just painting more caramel on it because I think I was being a little cheap with the caramel. So I'm just adding more caramel. You can add as much caramel as you want. Now this color that I'm using is the same coffee latte. And once I was finished with the amount of caramel apple, I didn't want it to look perfect. I wanted it to look a little bit off. So anyways, I just use the same paintbrush and I kind of dab the Epsom salt to kind of give it some variety and texture. So I just dab this coffee latte. Why am I saying coffee? Coffee latte, the brown color. I use that. Then I come in with some of this hazy moon color. It's like a buttery white color, but it's like buttercream or something. So I just decided to use that as well, twisting my paintbrush, trying to keep the Epsom salt on there. And I like the variety in color. I think it was awesome. Now this is what it's pumpkin scented pine cones. This is the pack I found at Dollar Tree last time I was there. I didn't see this last year, but then again, my Dollar Tree was awful last year. And then my camera went wonky on me, but as you can see, I used more of that same red and natural colored jute cord, and I made a cute little bow on top with a little tiny gold bead in the middle. But I hope you enjoyed this video. There it is on my tier tray. I think it's so cute. Let me know which one of these was your favorite. So there's everything on the tier tray. This was super fun to make. I hope you give it a try. My husband called it a caramel apple hat. Yes, that's what he called it. I cannot unsee it, and neither can you now. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, friends, thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate you clicking on my video and spending time with me. Don't forget to check out that playlist below. Special thank you to Lisa from Our Grey House and Sarah from Jujubee DIY, as well as Indiani for hosting. And take care. God bless. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye. If you like this video, here's another one you might enjoy.